I come today not actually as my business title actually suggests, and I'm not going to tell you what I do actually, because if you want to find out what I do, you will come to our session this afternoon in the pharmacy stream, where Andrew will again be my warm-up act, and we'll be doing a session all about pharmacy and terminology in this afternoon session. We are pharmacy's answer to Phil and Holly. That is what we are. Well, absolutely. But in truth, for the session I've got planned today, my job title doesn't really matter. Because as I said, I'm not Robert. I'm not talking to what was billed on the agenda, but I slightly am. So I'm talking about community settings and how we actually cope out there in the community. But today I'm going to come here and talk to you about my personal dreams. And in true sort of like glamorous assistant manner, I'm going to talk to you about my dreams. And my dreams are, of course, world peace and interoperability. And obviously interoperability is all about talking to things. Everything's talking together. And I work nowadays in IT. I got out of pharmacy because I don't really like people. Not really a people person, so I got into IT systems instead. And my vision, my dream, is that these systems will work together, they'll actually talk to each other. And I don't think we're going to get anywhere in the patient journey unless we start doing that. So to set the scene for my dream, I want to tell you a few stories. I do have 2 small children, so I do very good lining bedtime stories. So it's just what you need to set you off before lunch, pre-lunch nap, so please feel free to doze off. But these aren't actually happily ever after stories. These are more grim fairy tales rather than Winnie the Pooh. And these are actually tales of woe, and they're tales from a patient perspective. So my first story is about a patient, that's Mrs. C, a patient. She goes into the hospital to have excision of Morton's neuromas. Now, Morton's neuromas are actually benign tumours on the nerves that go into your toes and your feet. So you've got tumours on both feet. Quite painful, because these little tumours grow around the nerves, and it feels like you're walking on golf balls, and then they pinch the nerves and send pain straight up through your legs. So little things needed to go. So she went in, bilateral excision, operation was fully successful, came around for the anaesthetic very well, and she was discharged. Absolutely no problem at all. A couple of days later the problem is, well, not actually a problem, joyous news, she found out she was pregnant. But Mrs. C also knew that during the operation, part of the procedure would be that you could actually be having scans or an X-ray to make sure that the neuromas had been removed successfully. She also hadn't told the anaesthetist that she was pregnant, so she had no idea what meds she'd been exposed to either. Slightly concerned. So she toddles off to the GP, she can't get through to the hospital, and so GP sees her, and she says, OK, I need to know what happened in that operating theatre. I need to know what meds I was given, so I'm slightly concerned. GP hadn't got a clue. GP didn't even know she'd been to hospital. Because she'd been to see the consultant, he'd been referred to the consultant, and then she'd just been to have this operation, and the GP didn't even know that. So no information came through to the GP. So the GP tried to ring the hospital. Sorry, notes aren't available, nothing's been written up, and all the staff that were actually working in theatre yesterday, they're not around today, won't be around until next week. Did compound it slightly, in fact, it was a private hospital, so all the regular staff are back working, doing their NHS day job, so they had to make sure all the staff are ready. So it took over a week to get the information back to Mrs. C about what had happened to her in the operating theatre. Thankfully, everything was okay, but there was a lot of stress and a lot of work entailed in getting the information for Mrs. C. Story 2, Mrs. C again. Mrs. C actually suffers from moderate severe rheumatoid arthritis. And as such, she is actually on a class of drugs called biologics. They're very expensive, and as Andrew mentioned earlier, they're actually provided through home care. So home care is basically where the trust sends the order to the home care provider, third-party provider, and then they deliver it to the patient out in the home. Why do they do this? Well, basically because it saves them a fortune in VAT. Because the home care provider can deliver it to the patient in their own home, and therefore those medicines are not subject to VAT. So if you can imagine the biologics that Mrs. C is on, for example, are thousands of pounds per injection. So you multiply that across the trust, that's a massive saving for the trust per annum. So the home care is being used increasingly. First issue. What happens normally is the home care provider rings Mrs. C to tell her that we've got some meds for you to go out for delivery. And they arrange a delivery, and she waits in and gets them. She was down to her last injection, and so she rang at the home care provider and went, you haven't rung me for a delivery. They went, oh, well, that's because we haven't got a prescription for you. Right, OK. Can you send some out? Can you find a prescription? That's not our job to find a prescription. OK. So she gets onto the hospital, and lots of toing and froing, because the hospital said they've actually sent a prescription. Home care provider said we haven't received it. Mrs. C is going, I don't give a damn what's happened to the prescription, I just want my medicines. This took over 10 days to sort out, and eventually the consultant had to get involved and write another script and send it off to the home care provider. Then after that, the delivery had to be arranged for a day when they were in the area, so 2.5 weeks later she finally gets some more medicines. The problem with the biologic she's taken is etanercept. The flush-out period is about 2 weeks for that. So after 2.5 weeks of no injections, she actually has no cover. She's actually got no meds inside her. So major flare of arthritis, big doses of steroids have to go in, and a couple of weeks off work. Issue 2. Biologicals they're massive molecules, and they synthesize, and different brands are synthesized slightly differently. So it's not like a generic medicine like paracetamol is paracetamol. The biologicals can be slightly different depending on which brand you have. That's why they're called similar, not actually equivalent. They're similars. So you have to be given the same brand when you get a biological. Just after the first incident, a couple of deliveries afterwards, Mrs. C takes delivery, takes a package off the delivery driver, takes it back in to put it in the fridge, opens a package. They've actually sent her Enbrel, which is not the brand she normally has. Normally has Benapali. She can't use them because they're not equivalent. So again, onto the home care provider, and they have to then rearrange delivery, and that takes another week. So another problem, another slight flare, more steroids. But again, this time, she's actually got 8 injections in her grasp here as well. They're over £1,000 per injection. She has to bin them, because once they've been out of the supply chain, back onto the patient, they can't go back into the supply chain, straight in the bin, can't be used. And number 3, Mrs. C again. Due to the medication she takes, so arthritis, she's methotrexate, etanercept, she has to have regular blood tests to make sure that all is well. So rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease, which basically means the immune system goes into hyperdrive and starts attacking itself. So to combat it, you take drugs which would actually reduce the immune system. But the problem is, sometimes they take it a little bit too far, and they kill off all your white cells as well. So every couple of months, Mrs. C has to toddle off to the phlebotomist at the local GP surgery to have her bloods done to make sure she's still got some white cells to fight off infection. So she toddled along, then it goes off, sent off to the path lab at the hospital. The path lab sends the results to the GP, and the GP, if there's a problem, the GP will then ring her and tell her, you're okay, you're not okay, you've got to go to hospital, things aren't good. If she doesn't get that phone call, she takes her meds again. That's how it works. So Mrs. C does a regular thing. She toddles off to the doctors, has her blood test done, and then carries on takes her medicine. No phone calls, carries on taking her medicine. A couple of weeks later, not feeling great. Walks into the GP surgery, asks for an appointment. Must be looking absolutely bloody terrible because she gets an appointment straight away. And the doctor sits her down, she's got a sore throat. She's got a fever of 38.5. She's not feeling very well at all. So the doctor goes straight on to the records. Oh, I think you might see what your white count's doing, see what your white count's doing. Oh, last blood test was about 3 months ago. No, it wasn't. It was about 2 weeks ago. Well, no, got absolutely no record of that one. So blood tests are rerun, and she comes back with a white cell count of under 1. Normal range for white cell count is normally between 4 and 11.5. She was ragingly neutropenic. And then when her temperature spiked up again, she ended up spending 2 days in hospital and 2 weeks off work. The system is just not working. So there's 3 tales, 3 true stories. One caused patient stress and extra work for the GP. Second one caused personal and social cost and impact. It was actually she had to take more medicine. She wasn't very well at all. And it also meant she had to have several days off work. And being a very important person, actually the impact of that was probably massive. The third one was potentially life-threatening. That could have killed her. And I can tell you these, and I can tell you stories, I can tell you that they are completely true. They're not made-up stories, these are completely true, because these are all my stories. These are all things that have happened to me. And that's why I can share them here today, because I give my consent to share them, and I can share them. And I consider myself a pretty informed patient. I'm what you call an expert patient. I like the word expert. But even I have fallen foul of duck jokes and the system. And that's why I have a dream. There is a way to get through this. And the beauty of my dream is that given who I am and what I do, I know that we can make these dreams a reality. The building blocks are already there. We just need to painstakingly start to put them all together. So in my dream world, these stories will look slightly different. And I will whiz through these, so I'm very conscious of time and the fact that you want lunch. Okay. So in dream one, when Mrs. C's in hospital, everything will be scanned at the point of care. Everything that happens to her in that hospital will be going directly into her notes. And I know that some hospitals are doing that already. Fantastic. Great, thank you very much. But I don't live in a hospital. I live out there in the community. So I want you to share that information with my GP. I want you to share that information with me. I want to have access to information, not making phone calls. I said, I don't like people. I don't want to speak to people on phones. I want access to my information in a format that I can actually get access to it. And there are ways of doing this already. There are things in place that can actually mean we can actually start to do this. The building blocks, I said, they are there. They're there. We have e-discharge. We have summary care record. We just need to start using them properly and getting all the information we're collecting at an acute level and getting it out there into community for people to access. I want my GP to have my e-discharge summary the moment I leave the door. I want access to that on my summary care record the moment I leave the door of the hospital. And even better, I want you in hospitals to scan it at the point of care in clinical language, in clinical coding, so it can go directly into the messages to my GP, and my GP system can read it. So I want you to put it in SNOMED CT for clinical messages, and of course the excellent, fantastic, hear more about it later, DM&D for medicines and devices, come to the pharmacy slot later on. The standards are there, the terminology is there, we've got the power to actually make these messages flow and make them understandable in the GP setting as well. I've got FHIR there as well, and that's a messaging standard to actually help construct these messages to make sure that they aren't corrupted and make sure they flow through to the doctors okay. And that's fast healthcare interoperability resource. And if anyone knows anything about HL7 messaging, it's the answer to the rubbish that was version 3 and the new way we're going to deliver messages within the NHS. Stream 2, there were two main issues here. The first one was the missing prescription. And I've got to say, when actually the home care provider have got my prescription and they're sending it out to me, it's brilliant. The supply chain logistics of actually getting it from the home care provider to me are brilliant. I actually know within about 20 minutes of when it's going to arrive at my door. It arrives with me, hand it over, they scan it, hand it over, and they're notified that it's all been sorted. Brilliant, supply chain logistics. They need to make sure they do that further up the track as well, because at the moment, there's this massive gap between the hospital and the home care provider. Nothing's happening. There's no notifications, there's no tracking about what happens between the hospital and the home care provider. We need to actually make sure this brilliant supply chain logistics goes further up the track and helps out there as well. We have this thing in community, it's called electronic prescription service, and it's been bumbling along for years and years now. Scripts go from the GP to the community pharmacy, get reimbursed, massive loop. It's been a slow burn, granted, but we are there now. Over 60% of prescriptions last month were actually reimbursed through the EPS system. That's over 60 million prescriptions last month just went through EPS. So we have got the power to transmit this information between people. We can do it. Why aren't we actually making use of it and then doing it in settings like this as well? The other issue, of course, is around the fact that the wrong information was sent. The prescription was actually sent generically, it should have been sent by brand. So we should be using standards, we should be using a message construct in standards so that you don't get to send the wrong messages. So use the right FHIR construct and use the right terminology, use DM&D to make sure you're sending the right thing at the right time as well. Dream 3. This is the biggie. So much went wrong here and so much could have easily gone well. Surely a blood sample is just another consumable. Why can't you slap a barcode on it and track it? Why are we actually losing these things between GP surgery and the path lab. It's 5 miles, for God's sake. That's all it is. It's not very far. We're really good at supply chain. Can't you actually apply the same sort of things to samples? And also, when you're tracking it, make sure the GP knows that you're tracking it. You can also even actually add it to my summary care record so I can actually look and see where it is. I can actually log on and see that, oh, it's okay, it has been analysed, my bloods are fine, I can do my injections this week. I don't need to bother anybody else. I don't need to rely on other people to send me notifications. Or, I don't know, really weird thought here, maybe send alerts from the summary care record to your phone to say bloods aren't good this month, or your bloods need retaking. They can send me appointment reminders from the hospital, but they can't send me information about what my bloods are doing so I can take my injections. And on the flip side, I can actually upload information to my summary care record to say, I've actually injected my meds this week. And so they know that I'm compliant, and they also know that could trigger an alert to say, OK, you shouldn't have done that, and you need to go and seek some medical assistance. There's so much we can do. The technologies are there. And it's not just me who has this dream. The organisation I work for has been tasked with making this happen. The National Information Board Personalised Health and Care 2020 framework set out the view that now is a time to revolutionise the way we manage healthcare and use IT successfully. And delivery of P2020 has been split up into the 10 domains, as you see here, and digital meds is the one that Andrew was speaking to earlier on. And each of these domains, they've got a sponsoring department, they've got an SRO, NHS England, and the delivery is actually handed to NHS Digital to actually make sure these things are happening. There's currently 33 programmes underneath all that lot. Might be less further to today, we'll see, but at the moment it's 33 programmes. And that has been set up just to deliver on my dream. That's how important I am. It's there to just deliver on my dream. And granted, it's a massive, massive, massive mountain in front of us. It's a long, long way to go, and it's really scary. And the path isn't always that clear. But I'll leave this less-known quote from Martin Luther King. Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. We have to start somewhere, folks. And as talking as a patient, it's hard isn't a good enough excuse.